Under the Same Sun.
Hello, and welcome to Under the Same Sun, where we explore the environmental issues that shape our lives and the practical solutions that can help us build a healthier and more sustainable future. I am your host, Lois Sambo, and it's a pleasure to be with you here again. So take a moment, think about your journey to work or when you went out today. Perhaps you drove past an overflowing refuse dump or plastic bottles clogging up a drainage channel? Or did you notice someone burning waste by the roadside? These have become the common sights that many of us see every day. But what if there was a new way we could manage our waste, or there was a better way we could manage our waste and also manage the environmental issues that we experience? Every year, Nigeria generates millions of tons of waste. Yet, much of it ends up in open dumps, in waterways, or is burnt in the open air. Now, these practices contribute to flooding, to air pollution, to spreading of diseases, and also release greenhouse gases that accelerate climate change. At the same time, they also represent missed opportunities for recycling, for job creation, and for building a circular economy where waste becomes a valuable resource for us. So, how do we move from just seeing waste as a problem to recognizing it as part of a solution? To discuss this big waste management issue with me is 𝐔𝐍𝐃𝐑. He's the founder and CEO of 𝐔𝐍 Environmental Health Sustainability Initiatives. Jackson, thank you for joining us on Under the Same Sun.
So thank you so much, Lois, and I'm happy to be on the show today.
Thank you. So let's begin with a question that so many people may have thought or may not have thought about. Because when people hear the words climate change, waste management doesn't outrightly pop up, to them. It doesn't come to their mind. But why should we think about waste management the moment we start talking about climate change?
Okay, thank you, Lois, for that question. And it's something that has been a big challenge, especially in developing economies like Nigeria. And waste management is one of the most overlooked climate solutions in Nigeria and in most part of developing economies. When people hear about climate change, they look at it from a very vague perspective, looks something that is very big. But I think with time, we need to understand that it's more with us than we think it's far away. And poor waste management we've seen over time has contributed directly to the green gas emission, particularly because of the methane that generates from decomposing organic waste that has, been littered everywhere. We have open dump site. And it's a very serious issue because methane is a very powerful greenhouse gas, around 80 times more potent than the carbon dioxide if you keep it over a period of 20 years, you know. And when waste is openly burned, which we see in most communities, especially in rural areas, it releases what we call the carbon dioxide, black carbon, and toxic pollutants into the atmosphere. Uh, this is one very dangerous issue around climate change that we have seen all over time. And then look at the beyond this emission, we see that waste management has a lot of, like how do you call it, interconnectivity. Let's say, for example, block drainages in communities by plastic waste. It worsens flooding. One of the reasons why we established 𝐔𝐍 was based on practical experience, like how I suffered from flooding when I was in Port Harcourt. And over time, whenever there is heavy rainfall, you see that, like where I was living that time, it's a flooded area. And when the rain falls, you'll see that it takes all the waste, including plastics, all the dirt that are in the drainage, into my room. These are some of the things that we preach about at 𝐔𝐍, that people should understand. When drainages are blocked, it worsening flooding. and it's becoming frequent, due to climate change. You don't predict weather patterns, rainfall, and therefore. So improving waste management simultaneously, we believe it reduces emissions, protects the public health, and strengthen the climate resilience that we talked about. So, to answer your question directly, uh, waste management should be in the front burner when we're talking about climate change because it has a lot to do in public health.
Yes, thank you very much. And speaking about your experience in Port Harcourt, right, I can only imagine people living in Lagos right now because it has become a yearly issue in Lagos, and it's in the suburbs, right? Or in the urban areas, not even the suburbs, like in the highbrow areas where they're every year constantly having to experience flooding. And it just reminds me of I think a statement someone had once said that told me that because you don't see the waste does not mean it is gone. And that's a mentality that a lot of Nigerians have. So the moment I am holding waste in my hand, if I throw it and I can't see it, you just feel like we have dealt with the situation. But what we
So
don't understand is if we throw it, whether at the back of our
it
house
goes
or in
somewhere.
the gutter, it goes somewhere. And what we're not worried about is where is it going? Right. So
Yeah, very good.
what needs to be done? How do we need to fix this? Especially because it has to start from the mentality or people's mentality of waste management. Because a lot of people don't think that this is a problem, and it honestly bothers me.
So I will share with you a practical example. And like
Mm-hmm.
I said, one of the things that propel us to start this project or this campaign or this organization is born out of personal experience. I was in Dubai with my family not too long ago, and we bought a taxi. And my younger kid was hungry and he wanted to have some snacks. And while in the taxi, my wife attempted to bring out snacks to give to my younger kid to so that he can stop crying for food or something like that. Do you know that the taxi guy said no, it's not allowed, that we can't give him snacks while he's driving? And we asked why. I was curious, like, this guy, this is a small kid, he's hungry, he wants something. And he said no, that the rule forbids eating on transit because when you eat on transit, there's high temptation that you are going to either throw away the garbage and it causes environmental pollution.
True.
That's stuck into my head. Why? Because this is a system that has it has become part of the system. People grew up to understand that you don't throw waste indiscriminately. And even if you have a commercial vehicle, I know in Nigeria we have a lot of rules, but it's just unfortunate that the rules are not enforced. And I'm going to talk about it in the course of our conversation. So it begins with awareness. It begins with being cautious. Uh, it it's so frustrating and painful when you drive in traffic in places like Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, and big cities, and then you see people in public transport when they have something instead of keeping their waste and discarding it in the appropriate place, they just throw it away. Off sometimes you are in the traffic, you somebody just fling a bottle of water, because just like you said, they feel that when the waste is not seen, it's gone, but it's not gone. It goes to somewhere, it gets stuck somewhere, and it becomes a problem to the society. So I think one of the things we need to keep emphasizing about is people should become more conscious of the environment that they live and understand that each action or whatever or their behavior towards the environment impacts significantly on their lives, on public health, on environmental health as well.
And it also makes me just think of maybe sort of start a campaign to say if you want to reduce the flooding in your area, make sure that you manage your waste properly. But let's even talk about um how we can improve waste collection, because I feel it is also part of the reason why we're not able to manage our waste well, because waste collection in Nigeria is almost zero. So how can we improve waste collection that would even encourage people to recycle and maybe even separate their waste properly?
Yeah, so I think let's look at the challenges in the infrastructure, sorry, in waste management, especially in Nigeria. One of the biggest challenge is infrastructure. In developed societies, for every public space, there is a waste collection uh, structure. You know, if you are in the supermarket or you're in the grocery store or you are in shopping mall or wherever, there are designated points for waste collections. In buses, in public transport, there are designated points where you know, drop your waste because they know that waste is inseparable. I mean, people have to generate waste whichever way, you know what I'm saying. So in managing waste, especially in Nigeria, we need to apart from the sensitization, we need to have the adequate infrastructure. Sometimes you go to government facilities, you don't see waste collection bin. As simple as waste collection bin. You go to churches, you go to places, you go to worship centers, you don't find waste collection. People just so the institution, the organization, apart because sometimes for people to be compliant, I won't blame somebody who has maybe he's tasty and then he has a bottle of water and he's done. He doesn't know where to throw it. He doesn't know. He doesn't have. And he doesn't want to be carrying it about until he gets to like 2 hours of his destination. So if government, societies, communities are able to provide waste collection designated point or infrastructure, it will help in reducing waste and it will help in collecting waste. And then another thing again we see that is enforcement. Like if because most times people just break the rule intentionally because they know that there's no consequence. So if we don't have adequate enforcement, like you see people go to open dump site and just dump refuse. You see people go dump refuse. In some places, as soon as you dump your refuse, you're fine. Like if you are caught, you're fine, you're penalized. And because you don't want to be penalized, you behave yourself, right? So one of the ways to improve waste collection is apart from the sensitization, we also need to encourage, we need to have the adequate infrastructure, especially for waste collection disposals, especially in cities and communities, public places. We also need to increase public awareness. And that is why one of the things we try to do is we try to get them young. Like you need to inculcate some of this habit into younger generation as they are growing up in schools and all of that. So by now, I believe that in all schools, institutions, waste management, climate change, public awareness should be intensified so that more people will be aware of the issues around and try to see how they can, support the community to live healthier.
Thank you. And while we were speaking about this, I remember, so I'm not very old, I'm still very young, but I remember when I was younger than this.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger than this that there was a time where buses had trash cans in them in Nigeria and we used to use them. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden it just became like it was a burden to everyone and everybody would just throw their trash out of the window. And it's just so sad, that we have gotten to this point, as a nation. But let's talk about circular economy, because when we say waste, the first thing that comes to someone's mind is it's no longer useful. But because it's
Yeah.
called waste does not necessarily mean that it's not useful. How do we work towards being able to achieve a circular economy and ensuring that people even begin to see the wealth in waste?
Yeah. Okay. So before I answer that question, I want to say that when you were growing up, you see that every vehicle had what do you call it, a trash collection can inside the vehicle. Yeah, that's very correct. And even private cars are supposed to have that in their vehicle. It's a law. It's even in the law. Like if road safety stops you on the road and you don't have it in your vehicle, you have broken the rule. But things goes the way it goes as far as concerned. But so let's come back to circular economy. Um, is one sector of the economy that has not received adequate attention, especially because people feel that waste is a dirty business, and a lot of people don't want to go into waste. But one of the things that circular economy does in transforming waste in most countries is that people look at waste as resources and not the problem. Do you know that circular economy is a multi-billion-dollar economy in most developed economies, even in Nigeria? It's just because of the weak infrastructure and some of the challenges that we have that is making it look like people don't care about it. But I think over time, people are beginning to become more aware of the benefits of the circular economy. Um, so one of the things I recommend is that people who wants to go into waste management business should look at it that there's a lot of money there's wealth in waste. That's just a summary. There's wealth in waste. And it has, over time, we have seen a lot of industries, both in Nigeria, there are some in Abuja that I know personally, in Lagos, in Paragon, and in other cities who are doing tremendously well in transforming waste into wealth. And another is saying that if government is able to support industries like recycling, it generates employment because that's one of the a sector that generates, high traffic of employment, especially among underserved communities. You see those women who picks bottles on the streets and all of that. It's a source of employment. It's a source of income generation. I know of places in Abuja that you go and deposit your waste and collect money, like cardboard papers, like plastic bottles, and all that. There are a lot of organizations in Abuja that are doing that. Even in the suburb, places in the suburb like Nyanya, Maraba, and all those kind of places, we have some designated points. People are coming up now. We have some designated points where you take your waste to and you get paid. So it's becoming a good business, especially for those who know how to manage it very well. So I believe that if more attention is paid to circular economy and people begin to realize that, look, I can make money from this trash, it creates more opportunity for economic growth and eliminates the problem of waste in our society.
Yes, and speaking about being able to deposit your waste and get some money. 2020, yes, about 6 years ago, because I'm a very passionate climate advocate. So there's this, I'm not going to mention the name anyways, but there's this organization where I used to take plastic bottles and go and deposit. But what made me stop at that time was because what I was getting was way less than what it even cost for me to be able to transport those things over there. So somehow it kind of discouraged me from, because and then there was a training I was a part of and they were giving us water like breakfast, lunch, dinner. So there were so many plastic bottles and I was like, oh, this is a great, opportunity. Because at the end of the day, I'll just see them pack all the plastic bottles and throw them at the bin behind.
Yeah.
And basically what they were going to do was they were going to burn it. So I would just follow desk by desk and by desk, pack all of them and then put them. So I had a lot of plastic bags with it. And so when I took it to this organization, oh, they weighed it. And because they're plastic bottles, they're not as heavy, So by the time I took them there, the amount I spent to take it, by the time they calculated what they were going to give me, it wasn't, it wasn't even up to what it took me to take it, much less even going back. Somehow it kind of discouraged me. And some people think of it from that perspective that, for you to be able to make it and, have a very solid business in waste management, you have to do it almost at large scale. So that's also something that sort of discourages people from going into this business. But let's talk about different kinds of businesses that we can do that maybe let's start from the bottom of the pyramid, right? That may not cost so much and people would be able to see returns that would encourage them to continue investing in these businesses.
Yeah, so I agree with you that sometimes the cost it's a bit steep. I think the circular economy activists or those companies in that sector are beginning to realize that, and they are bringing it closer to the doorstep. I don't know if it's permitted. I don't want to also mention it, but I know I have a good friend of mine. I don't know. I've never met them. I've been following them on their social media, and they are somewhere in Abuja there, but because they know that the distance, like the woman in Massacre, for example, or in Nyanya, for example, you're asking her to transport to come to Jabi or Durumi just to
It
come and
was in
drop
Durumi.
100,
I think you know the one I'm talking about.
or just to come and drop 100 bottles of plastic, and then you look at the time, the cost of transport, the inconvenience, and when they come, you wait and say, "Oh, it's just one scale." It's very discouraging. So I think what they have done now is to establish collection points at every hub site. They call it hub site. So if you are within the Massacre Maraba axis, you go and drop it at the collection site closer to you. Then the company will now bring their truck as a designated point to pick it up. So I think that has helped over time. And I was interacting with a group of women in one of the local communities in New Cairo, that was a suburb there. And they tell me that for every 12 bottle, is it 12 bottle they're able to assemble, they get, is it 100 naira or so? I can't remember exactly how much it was at that point. So, and then their challenge was the cost of transporting and depot. So I think the players in the industry are beginning to realize that if we make this too expensive, we are not going to get results. So I think they have now decided to designate a time to go to these communities and be collecting them themselves. So it's a bit capital intensive. That's the truth. To be a player in the circular economy is capital intensive because it needs machineries, you need trucking, you need human resources, you need all those things, and that's why we encourage that private sector, governments, people should invest in this sector so that it can be able to create more employment opportunities around. Now, if you're talking about low cost business, the the circular economy is so much that no matter how you look at it, if you want to start it, you will need a lot of capital. You know, except there are different spectrum, there are different layers. So you can be collection points. You may not you must not have enough capital to go into maybe using the plant or having a plan to be able to recycle. These PET bottles that are taken to site, they are converted into so many things, right? They are converted into so many things. I know of people who use some waste to produce things like ties, things like different kind of economies. There are things you can use for your economy. So we need to understand how it is, and the truth is you need capital to go into waste recycling business in Nigeria. And of course, unfortunately, the cost of borrowing is too high. People have good ideas. Like if you go to the bank now, rates are skyrocketing to about 30%, 30 something percent, and you are starting a business that is that capital intensive. So most times it's very discouraging. And that's why you see few players in the industry. But we appreciate some uh, major players like Nestle, Coca-Cola, and all those companies. They are now beginning to invest in what we call environmental sustainability, and then they begin to support other companies who are coming up because I know that Transcorp Hilton, they do a lot of support when it comes to this kind of project. So I think it's not very easy, but it's worth it because there's a lot of wealth that can be generated from that business.
Another thing that comes to mind is a lot of the time, especially in the suburbs and the very rural areas, there is no structured waste collection and waste management structure, right? And so they make use of babambola. So this very yes, and I see that is a structure that we could harness, only that we're harnessing. I think that we're just harnessing one part of it and then we're leaving one part. So one of the things I notice is when they collect this waste, they literally sort out. So they sort out plastics, they sort out anything that is iron that they can sell. Every other thing, they just throw it away. And a lot of the times what they do is they throw it in waterways. So you're just passing the river and you're seeing dirt going through. But I feel like there is a way that we can harness them and then be able to also manage that kind of waste, because the truth is they manage most of our waste every day. In fact, most
Yeah.
of the waste that clogs our drainages is caused by
Yeah.
them because they throw it in waterways, right? But how
Yeah.
can we work with them? How can government or the private sector work with these people to ensure that from the bottom of the pyramid, we're even able to capture that waste before it goes out?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. I would like to share a practical example. Like our Benue office is in Makudi, and we had that similar challenge. So we have a lot of informal waste collectors scattered around because we don't have a structured waste recycling plant in Benue State. I spoke to a company in Lagos, and then I also spoke to one of my good friends. I don't know them, like I just met them, and then I sent connections to them. And I also spoke to one in Abuja that, look, we are in Benue. We have lots of waste in Benue. We don't have that infrastructure as those in the urban city have. How can you partner with us to be able to solve the environmental problem? And one of the things they told me was that if we can generate 15 tons of waste every month, they will now be able to send in their trailers to come and pick it up. You know what it costs to generate 15 tons of waste? That's a lot of work. Now, what the way waste are recycled in Benue, like right now, is there's someone who will collect from all the, like the babambolas, you call it, and then wait and wait and wait until he's able to get like 10 tons, 15 tons before they will load it in the trailer and start sending it to places like Abuja or send it to Lagos. So, and because the person is in business, he wants to send in waste that are going to be profitable. Like he's going to send in waste that will generate money for him, like the PET bottles, the cardboard papers, the irons, and all of that. And every other thing is goes back to society, just like you said, and it becomes a very big problem. So we see that it's a big challenge, especially in the rural setting. Now, how can this be done? You see, this, what do you call them now? These guys, the babambolas that you mentioned. I think one of the ways we try to connect with them, they even have an association. So we met with the leadership of this association and said, look, your guys are doing excellently well in trying to harvest this waste from the communities. So we need to also start by giving them orientation that when you harvest this waste from the communities, the ones that you are not going to use, that you feel they are not profitable, instead of discarding them back into the society, it's not helping matters. We have government-approved dump sites. Like in Benue, we have one in North Bank, and we have, I think, one or two in other places. But the challenge, again, they say, is that who pays for that? Like, they are looking for a way how to make money. Government doesn't care. Nobody cares. So why do I have to, But I think it has to start with sensitization and governments also being involved, because these things you can't do it alone. No private organization can solve the entire problem of waste alone. We need huge government support. But the Ministry of Environment, like in the state, we have the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. We need to keep engaging them. We need to keep talking to them. Somebody needs to understand that this is a big problem in our society. So those guys, one of the things we also try to do in our program is to see how we continue to sensitize people, because knowledge is a lifetime something. We continue to sensitize people and let them know that this affects all of us. It doesn't matter whether it's okay, nobody see me. This is not my house area, because some people feel that, okay, I don't live on this street, so let me just jump it there and run away. You
Yeah.
never can tell. When there's flooding, it affects the entire state.
Everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we need to still continue with sensitization, public awareness, and perhaps also have stricter enforcement laws so that when we see somebody and penalize the person, tomorrow the other person will not repeat the same thing.
Thank you very much, Axin. Thank you so much. And was really grateful for, you accepting to be on the program today. Thank you so much. And we hope when we call next time, you'll still answer.
Sure. It's a passion. We are all passionate about ensuring we have a good environment. So it's one of the things we do, and we'll continue to do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you, Lois.
Keep it to date with me same time next week. I remain your host, Lois Sambo. Under the Same Sun.